Hello, everyone. This is Sweet Lou, Jeff Luzader with HoosierAuthority.com with another Lafayette Living Legend segment. And we're here with, I want to say Coach Dave Knott. But, Dave, I appreciate your time here. And let's sit down and talk a little bit about your career, both at Valpo High School, Wabash College, and Lafayette Jeff. Being a coach there. You said off camera here that you've graduated from Valpo in 1965. And we talked a little bit about the way football was played back then. And tell us a little bit about Valpo High School football back in 1965.
Well, prior to that, Valpo High School football wasn't very good, and in 1962, Valparaiso hired a guy named Tom Stokes to be their football coach, and he was a wonderful guy and a terrific football coach, and ended up winning a state championship and turned that program around from one that won maybe a game or two every year when I was a kid growing up and was a real doormat, just got beat by everybody, to a team that over the past 30 years almost always ranks as one of the elite teams in Indiana. I learned a great deal from him. A lot of what I did as a coach came from my high school coach, who's just was a terrific guy.
Now, when you started playing football for him, did he kind of plant a seed with you? And at that time, did you say, I want to be a football coach?
Well, not at the time. That thought never occurred to me, but he made football fun, and he was an intense competitor, and we were always very well prepared. And I just always enjoyed it. I grew up in an environment in the 60s in Valparaiso where I can honestly say I don't have a single bad memory. I liked going to school every day. I liked all my teachers. I played football, basketball, and baseball. I liked all my coaches. I still have connections with those coaches and some of my teammates, and it was just kind of an idyllic way to grow up. And I hope my kids, and I hope some of the kids that played for me, have the same memories of growing up that I have, because it's almost storybook kind of stuff. We didn't have any of the problems we have today.
You talked about your position being a single wing tailback on the football team, and you just mentioned, and I didn't ask you off camera regarding your other sports. Did you felt like you were better at football than you were at baseball and basketball at Valpo?
Well, I suppose that's true, but back then there were a lot of three-sport athletes. Sports were seasonal. You played football for 3 or 4 months, and then it was time to play basketball, and then in the springtime it was time to play baseball. We played all year long, whatever was available, and I liked all of them. I mean, I just liked to compete. I played for some wonderful coaches, and I was very fortunate.
Then you told me about you went to Wabash College, graduated in 1969, but you switched position and became quarterback at Wabash College for 3 years, and I'm sure that was what really changed. I mean, was the single wing tailback position not available at Wabash College?
Well, in high school for Tom Stokes, we played the single wing. Most people now well, no, I shouldn't say that, because the single wing has now made an evolution. That's what the Wildcat is, what they call the Wildcat now, direct snap to one guy who either runs with the ball or throws the ball. I was doing that in 1965, 45 years ago, and then the single wing went away, and we evolved into the T formation with the quarterback under the center, and now the single wing, they don't call it that, but it's the same concept, has made a return. It's all evolutionary. So when I went to college, nobody played single wing football, and I had to learn to become a T formation quarterback. Didn't take very long, but yeah, I didn't regard it really as a switch of positions, but I went from a single wing tailback to a T formation quarterback.
And then we talked off camera about your after you graduated from Wabash College, you were at a couple high school as a high school coach before you came to Lafayette. Jeff, you want to mention those two schools?
Yeah, I spent 3 years I wanted to be a head coach, and I was never an assistant coach. I was a head coach when I was 22 years old in Paoli, Indiana, and I spent 3 years there, and then I spent 3 years at Peru High School. And again, I was lucky. I worked for some terrific administrators, and here we are 40 years later. I still have contact with some of those people, and had some success both places. And then I spent 3 years at Peru, and then ended up here in 1976 and spent 9 years as the football coach at Jeff.
And we talked a little bit off camera regarding your coaching career here at Lafayette. Jeff, you mentioned winning the North Central Conference 6 years in a row, and some of the highlights regarding that. Can you talk a little bit about your 9 years here? We mentioned a little bit about the administration was absolutely wanting to win and stuff like that, Dave.
Well, I was lucky. My whole life, I kind of feel like I've been at the right place at the right time. When I came here, the superintendent who hired me was a guy named J. Russell Hyatt. And there's a sign. Every time I'm in the building at Jeff, I see that sign in the Commons area. It says, Jeff excels in many areas. He was the epitome of that. As the superintendent and the leader of the educational system, everybody knew this. He wanted everybody to be good. He wanted the English department to be good. He wanted the science fair to be good. He wanted the band to be good. He wanted the football team to be good. He expected us to be excellent in everything. That was the standard he set, and everybody knew it. Sam Leibolt was the athletic director. He was the same way. There aren't maybe too many people left that remember Sam. That was a long time ago. But the thing I remember about Sam was he was a quiet guy, didn't talk a lot, but he was an intense competitor, just hated to lose, just absolutely hated to lose. He thought that the Jeff Broncos should win every single time they go out, whether it's the B team tennis match or a softball game, didn't matter. He thought we should win. So I'm working for a superintendent and an athletic director that will look me right in the eye and say, we think we should win, not necessarily the state championship, but most of the time. I knew that. The assistant coaches knew that. The players all knew that. We lost that somewhat. But and then I stepped into an environment where I had a wonderful staff. Dick Skabinski and Bob Downing were the varsity assistants with me, and they were both capable of being head coaches. Bob later became the head coach. And Todd Mansfield and Phil Cox were the the B team coaches. And they fit right in with my philosophy. And the junior high guys, John Hink and Mark Strader in particular, would coach those kids at Tecumseh, where they'd come to us ready to play as freshmen, sophomores. They'd been well trained and well coached, and I was just kind of there in the midst of all this wonderful administration. We had good players, we had good assistant coaches, and we won a lot of football games.
We talked off camera again here before this interview regarding the way the game's changed a little bit. I don't want to put you on the spot, but could you see yourself coaching today's players? And obviously, or I don't want to say today's players, I want to say today's game, because we talked about, almost every down is a pass.
Well, that's true. I tell this story to a lot of people, except if you go to the state championship games, if you go down to Lucas Oil and watch the finals, you're going to see the teams that win play what I call old school football. You watch the bowl games this year, and you'll see the teams that win run with football. They play defense. That part of the game hasn't changed. Now, it's changed for all the teams that go 5-5, but it hasn't changed for the teams that go 10-0. They still run the football. They still play defense. They still have an excellent kicking game. They still block and tackle. That part of the game has never changed. I don't think it ever will.
Now, I told you I was going to ask you this, and you said you've answered about 1,000 times, but after those 9 years of coaching at Lafayette, Jeff, what happened to have you – didn't mention here you're an investment broker right now, but what happened to change your career?
Well, I majored in economics and math in college, and I always had an interest in the financial world, the investment world. It was always in the back of my mind that I might want to do this. And in 1984, 85, a guy from AXA Equitable approached me about getting into this business, and I was believe it or not, I was curious more than anything else. I wanted to know about myself if I could do something else, and I thought, well, I'll get into this business and I'll try it. If it doesn't work, I can always go back. I can always get a job teaching math and coaching football. I think I still could today if I had to. And so I said, I'll try this because I'm really kind of curious if I can do this or not. And here I am 25 years later, I'm still doing it.
Now, regarding your family here, of course, you had 3 children. Jake, who went on to Wabash College and settled. He was quarterback and set a lot of records down there. And, of course, Betsy and Sarah played volleyball at Lafayette, Jeff, and were on the Final Four teams that Gail Grape took in 1993 and 1994. I think I asked you off camera why, Jake was a quarterback at Lafayette, Jeff, and he may still have some records here. And then, like I said, all the records at Wabash College. But you didn't seem like off camera here when I asked you about Jake. He didn't have that old saying about, hey, I want to be like my dad.
No, he didn't want to be like his dad. He was like me only in that he enjoyed playing. And he liked to compete. And when he was growing up, what he wanted to do with his spare time is shoot the basketball and hit a baseball. And we spent countless hours just playing catch and shooting and throwing and hitting and doing all those sorts of things. He played because he liked it. He didn't play because of me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about with you being an athlete. I know I talk to a lot of people, and compared to myself being in athletics, if you weren't in athletics, would you say you might be more successful, or And I'm talking about the hard knocks that you had in football practice. About the IHSA's got commercials now regarding the lessons learned not in the classroom. Can you relate that a little bit to your life, Dave?
Oh, absolutely. I always have thought and still think that athletics is the best classroom there is. I think you learn more from athletics than you do any single other place. Tell me, where else now do you learn about being part of a team? I don't have any. I don't think there is any place else. Where else do you learn not to be selfish? We live in a world now where everything is all about me. Where in athletics, you have to learn that you're part of a team. That the sum is only as good as the parts. In my particular business, where there's a lot of failure in this business, we make a lot of presentations to people and who say no ultimately. Thanks for your time, but I'm going to go somewhere else. I think in athletics, you learn that there's another game tomorrow. You learn to accept defeat. You get up and dust off your pants and go on to the next one. Whereas a lot of people I've seen people in this business who they fail and they end up quitting because they can't cope with that. They end up pulling into a shell and they don't work as hard, and ultimately they say, this isn't working for me, I'll just quit and go do something else. Athletics teaches you you can't do that. Athletics teaches you that you got to persevere, you got to work a little harder. Every success I've ever had, I think, came from my background as an athlete. I can't imagine a parent not encouraging a kid to be an athlete, even if you're not very good at it, because of the lessons you learn about getting along with other people, playing by the rules. We don't do that much anymore. Be on time, simple things like that. It all comes back to my career as an athlete.
And then last but not least, and we'll wrap it up here, but I didn't talk to you about this beforehand, but when I came to Lafayette, Jeff, in 1986, you were basically doing what I'm doing, play-by-play behind the mic. Did you I know it sounded like what I was listening to. You really enjoyed it. Did you ever have any aspirations of doing some of that? I'm sure if somebody offered you something now, you'd do it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. I did enjoy that very much. And once again, I was lucky. I worked with I was the color guy, and I worked with a lot of 3 or 4 play-by-play guys who were all very good, who were all very professional. And all I had to do was talk about the football games and the basketball games, and it was fun for me. It was a lot easier to make decisions when they didn't matter. If I'm wrong, it doesn't matter with that radio mic in front of me, but when you're coaching, it does matter. And I really did enjoy that.
And then just to wrap it up here, I know you graduated from Valpo High School, but you basically got the red and black in your veins like I did. I graduated from Dunkirk High School, but once you get here and actually get on the campus, it's kind of magical to me how that Jeff Bronco pride gets in you. I'm not saying everybody's got it now. We talked off camera a little bit that some of that's missing right now. We got to get busy and work on some of that. But just in summary here about being a Bronco, what is it about Lafayette, Jeff, that you enjoyed?
Well, before I came here, I was at Peru for 3 years. And had a terrific situation there. My wife and I thoroughly enjoyed living there. I still have some friends there 30-something years later. I could have stayed there for a long time and enjoyed myself. But I looked around the state of Indiana, and I picked out maybe 3 or 4 places where I would have gone. I wasn't looking for jobs. I wouldn't have gone just to anywhere. But this was one of them because I knew it was a nice place to raise children. And I knew a little something about the administration. I knew they were supportive. I knew they had lots of players because I'd seen them in basketball and baseball in particular compete with the elite teams in Indiana. So I saw this as just a crown jewel as far as coaching high school athletics in Indiana. That was reinforced by J. Russell Hyde and by Sam Leibold, who regarded this as the place to be. They thought this was as good a job in Indiana as there was. I thought so too. And so it was easy to buy into all that. We've lost that. I haven't. I still believe everything what I just said. I still think we ought to win all the time. I still think it's as good a place to be as there is. I don't know if we'll ever get that back. I hope we do.
Well, Dave, I really appreciate your time, and like I said, I've been around here 25 years. Heard you on the radio. Wasn't here when you were doing some coaching, but I kind of consider you a living legend. So thanks a lot for your time, and I'm sure you're proud of your family. This is Sweet Lou Jeff Luzada for HoosierAuthority.com with our latest segment on Lafayette Living Legends. So long, everyone. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Lou.
Had fun.
We still feel that way. I mean, our superintendent, our assistant superintendent don't even live here.